What a fun amalgamation of people. Thanks for dedicating time to spend on this important conversation. Introducing myself, I'm Laura Garrison Brooke. I'm the CEO of the Positive Education Consortium, one of its co-founders. And at the Positive Consortium, our intention is to help just raise up awareness of positive education and how all students need, and that includes adult learners, a certain foundation of wellness in order to learn, in order to be, effective learners. And the way that we show up, it feels like there's an opportunity for us to harvest stories, stories from the students, stories from teachers, stories from leadership around this is how we've done something, like, for example, through the Positivity Project, that has really landed with our students. And if you go to our website, you'll see that we have some stories already on, but there are many, many more opportunities for us to build out that gathering of voices. And so if, as the conversation unfolds, you feel inspired to say, like, I've got a story to share. We'll certainly be recording this. This session is being recorded. But also you might be like, let's connect and have an opportunity where we'll ask you some very simple questions and invite you to bring your story forward so that we can share it with others who very well could find it inspiring. So that's the invite. And these conversations here were inspired by a colleague who I think is going to still be joining us, maybe a little bit late. This one is on openness because we're using the framework for growth from Carl Rogers, the Become framework. And today's session is focused on openness. And Kim Breen, who is a wonderful board member of the Positive Education Consortium, she has put together this conversation, which is affecting behavior change, seeing what's strong, aligning systems and strengths for a thriving school culture. And she's brought together a great team of people who help her do exactly that. So it's my pleasure to pass the baton to Kim for her to lead off our conversation today. Oh, and excuse me, I'm so sorry. There was one other thing that's on my to-do list. Oh boy, I would have been in trouble, y'all. So what we've been doing historically is we've been talking about what the last conversation covered. And I'll mention briefly that our last conversation, and these have all been recorded. So if you're like, ooh, I want to listen to that myself, it was about creating strategies to maintain our balance in a constantly changing world. And it was a really creative conversation that was led by Carol Radford. And some of the highlights, just to mention briefly, is that, we need to own our own well-being. We're the ones. And this was, specifically about bringing tools into the classroom for teachers to manage their well-being. We talked about how well-being looks different for everyone. But there were a variety of different examples put forth by Carol and Chandra, who was our other speaker, such as time in nature, forest bathing, mudras, walking outdoors. And one of the things that was mentioned that really resonated with the group was scheduling self-care like it's a meeting. If you don't schedule it, it won't exist, right? So put your well-being practices into your calendar, but at the same time, small actions matter. It can be a 2-minute, a 3-minute touchstone that just helps you drop in to taking care of yourself. Yeah. So now, Kim, I did a little bit of a bait and switch. Now I'm ready to pass the baton to you for you to lean into this conversation on affecting behavior change through a strengths-based approach. So
Thank you, Laura.
the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad you had the excuse to say forest bathing and other amazing things that Carol talked about last month,
Indeed.
which I am a big fan of. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, team. And thank you, everyone, for making time to come today. We appreciate it more than you know. We are very aware that these are very busy times and taking an hour out is hard. So thank you so much for showing up. I'm Kimberly Breen, or Kim, and I am a behavior change agent, which means I partner with school and district teams primarily, although also sometimes county and state teams as well, to help sites impact behavior. And so we're talking about impacting student behavior, but most of us know by now that to impact student behavior, we are also talking about impacting adult behavior. And so I'm typically working with folks to implement positive behavior support and or to improve their multi-tiered system of support. And what I have found over the years is that that work is challenging, not necessarily because of the practices or data that we install or use, but the challenging part is getting adult investment in the change process. So I personally use positive psychology to help create some openness, and that's getting adults to be open to learning, getting adults to be open to realizing that we have an influence on behavior and that there are things we can do to affect behavior change. Sometimes that openness means keeping a positive, open mind to why a student is doing what they're doing. Sometimes that openness means keeping an open mind to what we personally could do or change within our system. So that's asking sometimes school principals to look at where they can find room for improvement, or asking leadership teams to see how they could implement practices differently. It means more of us turning that pointing finger towards ourselves instead of outward. So we often get that pointing finger outward, students, families, community sometimes take the blame for some behavioral challenges we see in schools. But if we turn that finger inward instead and say, what could we do differently, and kind of keep that open mind so that there's always room for improvement, it's amazing what kinds of changes we can see start to happen. I'm personally so grateful for district leaders like Jasmine, who have been open-minded to the idea of bringing in work like Positivity Project, and who have had an open mind in bringing in work like positive behavior support. I'll say just briefly, the work of PBIS is evidence-based. It's an amazing, strong framework that can bring about all kinds of improvements across climate and culture, but many places have implemented in a shallow way. They implemented PBIS without fidelity, without follow through, and then they left that experience saying PBIS doesn't work. And Jasmine and her district are surrounded by a lot of other districts who had given up on the idea of PBIS because they decided it doesn't work. So it took Jasmine being a very open-minded district leader to say, you know what, we're going to give it a chance. And Jasmine, I'm so excited at the benefits we've been seeing coming out of your schools. I mean, they're pretty amazing in terms of the improvements you're seeing in attendance, student behavior, and improved culture amongst adults and staff. So Jasmine, thank you for everything that you've done there.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you for all of that. My name is Jasmine Basilius. I'm the Director of Instructional Services at the Fruitvale School District in Bakersfield, California. And Kim said, a lot about me being open, but I have to give credit to our entire Fruitvale team. I work among a very open team. I have an open superintendent and an open assistant superintendent, our director of special ed, Dr. Rocha. She's also very open. They're all on this call, and we've all collaboratively worked along with our admin team, all of our site administrators, counselors. We have a great team. And so we work at Fruitvale together, and we're trying to do best practice for our students in terms of behavior, academics, all the things. And so I will just share a little bit briefly about myself. I'm very personally invested in Fruitvale School District as I'm a Fruitvale grad. I went through the Fruitvale School District as a child, and I was one of those kids that would be considered unduplicated in California. I was an English learner, had low income status, had a little bit of trauma back there. And so all of that would have brought me, I think, to the surface of that category. And I felt like the Fruitvale School District really supported me. So it's come full circle for me to now be in a role where I get to support my district that I was in, and also now look at our students and families and try to find ways to remove barriers and help. So I'm very, very blessed to be where I am. As a school district and as a leader, we were looking for ways to address behavior. And we started some of this work pre-COVID. That's where we met Kim Breen and started working on some of the positive behavior supports. And then COVID came, and then we all surfaced from COVID and picked up that again and found that we still wanted a little bit more. And that's when we started looking at the positive psychology, and we learned a little bit more about that. So I'm very happy to turn it over to Eva, who is our principal at Discovery Elementary. Eva has been the principal there for 7 years, and she's a very, I would say, a visionary principal. She's a wonderful principal who has, together with her team, really led the Positivity Project on her campus. We've seen a lot of improvement in academic data, attendance data, behavior data at Discovery. And I love working with her, and I'm very proud to introduce her because she's one of those leaders who makes it a point to know every student on her campus's name. She has great relationships also with her staff. And she's one of those principals, or you can't find her, she's probably in a classroom somewhere working with kids, working with families. And so she's also a very open leader. So I'm very happy to turn it over to Eva.
Thank you, Jasmine. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here amongst you all, amazing educators and in the education system. So a little bit of background about myself and why I'm involved in this is, again, becoming principal 7 years ago. It was a different time. It was 2019, so that was my first year as principal, trial by fire with COVID as well. But during that time, there was transition in principal, VP, and a lot of staff turnover. So we were looking for ways to get our students involved and bring our families together, just that create that bond. So we were open-minded for what we could figure out. And someone came back from a conference and heard about Positivity Project. And that was recommended to me to go and check out. So I was able to go to Clovis Unified in Fresno and talk to them, see what Positivity Project was all about. I took a group of educators from my school, and when they came back, they were so excited about it, as well as myself and my VP, Kevin Jackson. And so we were excited to come back and talk about it. I had another group of teachers that said, I want to go and see it. I want to see what it's about. I think it sounds great. So I was able to take another group to Boris Elementary. They were very open to having us there and to share their story as well. So took another group, and then we started our Positivity Project with the year of 2020. Even though it was crazy, we implemented through Zoom, and it was amazing. So I've had the opportunity to have that going on for the past 6 years and to see how positive psychology has shaped students and families' lives with us here at Discovery Elementary. And I've had the opportunity to work with Jeff Bryan, the co-founder of Positivity Project, throughout those 6 years in different capacities, and his team. His team is amazing to work with, and they're always there for you. So I think that that's the best thing. Is to have someone there for you to help you along the way. Jeff is a huge advocate and support of positive psychology and really showing how that affects our students and families in such a positive way. And so I truly have seen how Positivity Project transforms schools for our students, for families, for everyone involved, our full community as well. Having community on campus has been huge as well. So I'd like to introduce Jeff Bryan, and thank you so much, Jeff, for being here.
Eva, thank you very much for that. It's been incredible to see the journey that Discovery's gone on and to see how open-minded Fruitvale has been to bring the Positivity Project to your schools. We started about 10 years ago with the mission to empower America's youth to build positive relationships and become their best selves. And the way that we do that is we take 24 character strengths from positive psychology and we equip educators across the country with the resources, the training, and the strategy to teach those character strengths to help kids build positive relationships and become their best selves. We started with one school about 10 years ago. Since then, we've grown to over 800 partner schools across the country. And it's been just incredible to see what schools are doing with these character strengths and with a focus on relationships and the culture that they are building in schools and really taking it and making it their own. And if you read Eva's story, you'll see the outcomes from a behavior standpoint, from an attendance standpoint, but it really all starts with that culture. And that culture starts with the character and the relationships that are getting built every day. And I'd like to introduce Dominic Frazina. He's our Director of Instructional Services. Dom was actually one of our partner school principals. He was also very open-minded. He started the Positivity Project at his school that he was the founding dean of and founding principal of, and they had quite a few issues when he first started it. It was a struggling school, and he really turned that school around, and it was the culture that he built that did that. So Dom was incredibly open-minded, which is also one of the 24 character strengths in bringing P2 to his school. And then we were lucky enough to have Dom join our team a few years ago, and he's done just a tremendous job of supporting schools and districts across the country with their implementation. So, Dom.
Well, thank you, Jeff. And first of all, Jeff and I always have to be careful not to wear the same shirt when we're on. So we nailed that today, which is great. As Jeff mentioned, when I came to the Positivity Project and I was, started that partnership as a principal, for context, we were averaging about 1,600 disciplinary referrals a year, which is really the mark and cornerstone of a, great culture of relationship, right? I say in jest. The reality is we know a lot of the what we want to do oftentimes in schools. We know a lot of the why, but the how is sometimes challenging. And that's really from an open-mindedness standpoint where we needed to pick things up and collectively work as a group. Fast forward a year later after that partnership, we were down around 116 disciplinary referrals, and then past that, down to 0% suspension, which we were tremendously proud of. And what it really speaks to in a lot of ways is working together collectively on that school culture piece and using positive psychology as a tool for how we treat both adult relationships, how we treat relationships with students and the community at large. So that's something I'm tremendously proud of. But more than that, I'm very proud of the work that I get to do on a daily basis with our schools, our districts, both in the United States and now internationally, which we're very proud of and continue to be. So the work that I largely focus on is around professional development, implementation support, and strategic planning. And really, it's sometimes a question of how to bring positive psychology and the 24 character strengths into an environment, and how to make it fit with what the needs are inside a school, and how do we train that and how do we support that. So with the work that we do with the partners that we have, we try to be open-minded and consistently learning based on needs. We have a great team at the Positivity Project on the curriculum side that's continually adjusting that curriculum based on needs. And then what we try to do is work in tandem as an arm of the schools to support that, so that we're all collectively working together. And the benefit for us are stories like you'll hear today and stories like we've heard shared so far, where we see that impact firsthand for kids. At the end of the day, it's about that impact, and kind of going back to that impact equation. We really want this to be meaningful work that we do every day, but sometimes it's the piece of how to operationalize that gets in the way. So that's, for me, what I'm passionate about. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Jeff, thanks for the introduction. Thanks for everyone for their introductions prior to now. And I guess I'll just open it up, past that point of gratitude before we dive in and see if there's any questions so far, any reactions, and open the floor that way.
Thank you, Dominic. Thank you, everyone. This is a conversation. So who would like to share their first question or comment? You have a school principal, you have district leaders, and not just the people who are presenting here, but you might have already met someone in the chat box you want to hear more from.
Yeah, Kim, I'd like to dive in, because one of the things that came to mind around, and I love that Jessica was chiming into the chat saying that they're all in and what a big difference it's made in Fort Edwards. I think one of the things that we've seen as educators is how students often resist showing up in the classroom because learning just doesn't feel relevant. So I would love to kind of put that out as a frame, because, with this conversation being about like seeing what's strong and how to connect and how to engage students into feeling like they have ownership in their learning journey. And I think that it feels like the Positivity Project and PBIS, MTSS, is kind of cracking the code on helping, connect those dots.
Mm-hmm. Just, piggybacking off of that, I think a big part of that with the use of Positivity Project is we implement it for the first 15 minutes of every day in every single classroom, preschool through sixth grade, general education, special education. All of our teachers are teaching it the first 15 minutes of the day. So it really is that connection piece, getting a significant adult to connect with students during that time. Positivity Project makes it really easy. The lessons are planned out, but they are different daily and yearly. So we are going through those 24 character strengths. Every week is a new different one, but it's outlined. There's so much information and lesson plans, but it really connects the students. So it might be a story being read to them. Maybe it's played on YouTube. It might be through a short video catching their attention. But, one example is there is one on open-mindedness. But going through all of those things and really teaching our kids intentionally about open-mindedness, it connects with them because they get a chance to tell stories. I love going into classes during that time because the kids will raise their hand and they're answering these questions and they're telling a personal story. They're saying how they connect to that character strength and that positive psychology, and really just getting their viewpoint. So it creates this community amongst them, makes them feel happy to go to school. That's why I do feel that we're seeing our attendance rate, our chronic absenteeism is declining tremendously. But it gives them that connection and someone else to hear their story and know who they are. And they're happy to be here at school and everyone's happy to see them and they know that.
And I was going to add on to that in terms of the point you made, Laura, about relevance, about kids not feeling that maybe the school is relevant. One of the things that we've learned from Positivity Project P2 is they take an assessment. The students take an assessment to learn that they have strengths within the 24. So it helps them identify these are the ones I'm particularly strong in, and maybe these are the ones I need to work on. And not only do our students take these assessments, but so do all of our staff members. I have on my window in the district office my strength posted, and we are all trying to learn what our strengths are. And so I think that connects for the students at school to know when they have opportunities to demonstrate those strengths, and it helps connect them to their learning all day long. And then we see it transfer to different segments of the day. And then we've streamlined it across the entire district in terms of being aligned, where when we have a character trait for the week, we have it on our buses have it posted, our cafeteria has it posted. All of our district calendars have that as the focus for the week. So everybody's on the same page. And I think all of those connections help bring some relevance to our students and to our families.
Yeah, I love that. And I see that Kelly's got her hand up. But just a quick clarifying question. When you say the 24 strengths, I assume you're talking about VIA or are you talking about something else? You are talking about VIA, Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. So we
Yeah.
took Chris Peterson and Martin Seligman's 800-page book, Character Strengths and Virtues, and that's what we're grounded in. So all of our
Okay.
one-page character cards are
Okay.
from a chapter in the book. It's our summary of that chapter in the book. Yep, there it is, Sandy. So we are grounded in the research of that book. And what we talk about is that all students have all 24 character strengths inside of them. And there's, greater and lesser degrees, some things that you have to work on from time to time. But you can tap into all of those. All students can show gratitude, bravery, perseverance, humility. The list goes on. And it's that common vocabulary and everyone understanding that I have these strengths and so does everyone else. And that's how they build positive relationships.
Yeah. And Kelly, I know Kelly's hand is up, but Jeff, someone did ask about funding for the Positivity Project because it's not free.
Yep.
I know that for sure. We need to keep the lights on, right, Jeff?
Mhm.
So maybe and for the schools as well, talking about how you fund it. Are there, ways to get creative with finding funding? Because I know that the budget can be sensitive. And if you want to answer that, and then we'll pop over to Kelly for her comment question.
Yeah, sure. So our base price is $39.95 per school per year, which averages out to about $8 per student per school year, for a 500 student school. We've also got district-wide discounts, multi-year discounts. There's also state budgets. I was in Michigan yesterday meeting with the state about being able to tap into 31AA funding, which is their mental health and school safety. So we're also talking to states about opening up, pots of money that are available for certain things so that schools and districts can use those as well. We've also provided scholarships for schools that are very small or funding is a struggle, because we really don't turn anyone away. We want to make sure that everyone can teach this, even if they don't have the funding.
And just the related note, for those of you doing, MTSS within your state, district, school, this could go under what you'd call social emotional learning. So hopefully that
Exactly.
makes sense for folks. So not everyone thinks of positive psychology, but it can be it can come forward under SEL or behavior efforts or attendance efforts, because those are the places that you find that growth. And, very related components. I hope it makes sense for those of you who know positive behavior support that it's, kind of foundational. The research on positive psychology led to many of those strategies within PBIS. So again, whether you're looking at attendance needs, looking at the needs of certain individual groups of students, that can be done through that positive behavior support framework, which has a huge overlap to what we see come through in positive psychology, like strength spotting, building on strengths, acknowledgement systems, et cetera. So let's go to Kelly and then Jessica.
Thanks, Kim. First of all, I want to say really learning a lot and enjoying the conversation. So thank you for bringing Positivity Project forward and teaching me a little bit more about that. My question really revolves around beyond the resources. And I'm wondering, beyond Positivity Project, the resources, the 15 minutes in the morning, some of the other work you're saying is being done, do the faculty and staff receive additional professional development to carry the work forward and use the resources beyond the scripted time they have to teach into the character strengths in more authentic situations? And I'm wondering what that looks like.
Yeah, so just going beyond that 15 minutes, it is truly built into our culture as a school site. All of our families know what it's about. There's a family connection piece at home, which P2 has put out, and it's amazing. Our families get a chance to talk to it with students, but just thinking about on the daily, our school psychologists, our school counselors, our RBT, a registered behavioral technician, and then my vice principal, they utilize, as well as myself, utilize it in all conversations. So we hold tier 2 and tier 3, might be a friendship group or a counseling session. P2 also has different resources for that as well, but they pull that even informally, but beyond the resources. I will constantly hear our vice principal, Dr. Jackson, giving many different conversations with students. Let's say they're in there for a behavior expectation. They weren't following something that expectation was lined out and they were not following that. He is constantly pulling in P2, all of the different character strengths into that conversation, whether it's self-control or it might be empathy. Were we showing empathy to a student? Something else. They're pulling in different traits as well as our RISE motto, which is respect, integrity, self-control, empathy, constantly into those conversations. Counselors, RBT, school psychologists, those groups, those meetings happens often. So it is just a part of our culture, what we do every day and how our students are expected to behave, but teaching them those behavior expectations and those character strengths. So that's beyond the 15 minutes. And it's really nice to see our teachers having those conversations too, with the P2 character strengths also.
Thank you, Eva. We'll go to Jessica and then Leslie.
We were a school that was on the brink of annexation a couple of years ago, and we brought Positivity Project to our leadership team, and it was like a teacher-based initiative. So we had a lot of buy-in. And I can say, having been a classroom teacher for over 20 years and now in my admin role, it is, like I had said in the chat, has been transformational for our very small school. We're a pre-K through 12 building. And I think, Kelly, one of the things that I wanted to kind of mention to you is that it's not just about, for us, we needed something to kind of build back our culture as a school community. And the professional development piece, we embed what they call 3 slides. So it's almost like a mini lesson that they've created. We embed those into our faculty meetings each month. So we're walking the walk, talking the talk, having that common language, and even going over those, mini lessons and exploratory moments with our faculty and staff. And I kind of design that according to what our needs are for the month. So for sometimes it might be a message of, knowing that our words and actions affect our students, or, something like that. Or maybe we want to look a little bit further into that positive psychology area, and there are 3 slides about that. So there's a whole plethora of resources to not only continue what we're doing in the classrooms, but providing that meaningful professional development for our teaching staff in a very short period of time. There are also longer sessions of professional development that come along with the program that we have kind of cycled through. And then, we are looking at having an all staff meeting here at Fort Edward next week when we come back after the long weekend, and we're taking a little bit of a different spin. This past year, we've introduced a student advisory panel for P2. So we're having them come in, sit up on the stage in our auditorium, and do a Q&A session with those students so that our faculty and staff can hear about what has been the impact of P2. What would you like to see for our year four goals and things like that? So there are a lot of opportunities that are built into the program, not just for those everyday lessons, but also to continue that professional development that we need as educators and really kind of help to bring it full circle, which I think a lot of programs are not as well equipped to do. Anyways.
Thank you, Jessica. Yeah, and I just as that note, the broad concept of positive psychology, and then that's been packaged and brought forward in Positivity Project. But to know for everyone to be hearing how Positivity Project has done this and how you could borrow the same concepts and features even if you weren't explicitly using Positivity Project. I just so folks know it's a great example of how to bring positive psychology into what we're doing with our schools, our character strengths, etc. Leslie, please, we have a superintendent joining us here today. I'm so grateful for you being here.
Well, we love the Positivity Project. I do want to share just on the finance side that you can make it as expensive or as cost effective as you wish in Fruitvale. And I don't want to say this to Jeff, but it is very cost effective and we appreciate that. And we use it district wide from TK through 8. But the way that we fund it is it's multi-funded, but primarily it's funded through our LCAP. So if you put it in your LCAP, it fits in the climate and the student engagement and connectedness piece. So we actually have line items that are connected to students getting incentives and rewards and field trips and things like that that are all connected to and rewarded through the character traits. So I just want to encourage you that it's something you can do and you can sustain it very easily through your LCAP. You can also use discretionary block grant funding or even learning recovery emergency block grant funding if you haven't spent all of that yet. So there's definitely a way and it's very cost effective.
Thank you, Leslie. And we do try to make it cost effective. We want everyone to be able to afford it, and we want everyone to be able to do it.
Yeah, and I'll just give a quick plug. Eva might give this also, but Discovery Elementary is a flagship school and would love to welcome any of you to come take a visit and see what they do. It's a pretty great place.
That's amazing. So generous. Thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
And I'll just share, as I have a 15-year-old, so he's now a 9th grader, but he just came out of middle school. And they were doing some social emotional learning. And with my bias of being a positive educator, I'm like, well, tell me about what you're doing and everything. And he's like, and he rolls his eyes. This was not Positivity Project, y'all. Okay. Let's make it clear. That's not what I'm talking about. And he's like, well, the teacher just says, what do you want to watch? And we choose this random thing. And a lot of people choose things from like the elementary school videos. And it was so clear that they're just ticking a box. Like, oh, I've got to do this. So let's watch this random video and then move on. So, what I'm hearing here with the difference, and Jasmine, I heard you mention that there was, there's schools surrounding Fruitvale that didn't embrace, or they're trying, maybe they're trying social emotional learning types initiatives, and it's not landing. And I think that's the difference, right? When you don't really embed it into the school culture, it just becomes one more thing on the plate where it's just like, okay, let's get through this quick and move on. And that's such an opportunity lost.
Yeah, I think what's made it really powerful, if I can comment on that, is that it's just been consistently implemented and we've followed through year after year after year. And I think that's also the strength that we've had with PBIS is that we haven't given up on it and we continue to have a focus, a singular focus of really focusing on all of this. I can share a brief little story. We did have a P2 showcase in the fall that Dom helped me set up for our district, and we had it at Discovery because, as Leslie said, Discovery is our pilot school, and we invited other schools and neighboring districts and families to come and observe and see the lessons, see what the impact was. We also had a student panel and staff panel where people were able to ask our students about the impact of Positivity Project, and we got to hear some really great information that day. But I had a grandparent who was in one of the classrooms observing a lesson, and the grandparent was observing I think it was a kindergarten lesson, and the students were talking about perspective, and was very impressed at the young age of our students, and the fact that the students were commenting and using the word perspective, understanding the depth of what perspective was, and then able to communicate it outside of that session. And so that's the kind of impact I think it has when it's followed through year after year. In this case, it was a kindergartner, but I think we have lots of stories across Discovery and across the district where they're learning it grade after grade, year after year, and we're consistently following through as a school district. And so we see it come up over and over again, and it has quite a huge impact, and our community members see it. And I'll share one tiny other little story about students that were playing on the playground, and a student was having a hard time crossing the monkey bars. So all the kids at recess brought the wood chips together to help. And as they were doing that, they were talking about how they were contributing, they were using teamwork to help their friend get across the monkey bars, and they shared it with the teacher. And so they celebrate, the staff celebrates, the students celebrate, and they're embedding the character traits in their day-to-day activities, which I think is a lot more impactful than, like you said, checking a box and just picking a video and it being kind of not aligned.
Exactly.
I
It's
want to
relevant, right?
piggyback just briefly and give that shout out to the whole Fruitvale School District for doing exactly what Jasmine said, which is picking their improvement initiatives and sticking with them. They did the same thing in addressing instruction. So they was very hard to install walk to learn across their schools. And there's, people have a challenge with accepting change, and I'm sure they got a lot of questions and maybe even some pushback, but they stayed with the course, and then they got great outcomes from doing that. Same with positive behavior support. Many places out there, they implement in a shallow, superficial way. They kind of try it the way you would like throw something against the wall and go like, that didn't stick, we're going to move on. There are many interventions within all of these pieces, right? You hear about check and check out in a lot of places. They kind of try it, but they don't implement with fidelity. They don't follow through. And so when you have district leaders who say, this is what we're going to do because the evidence says it works. Jeff has great research behind their program to say it works. PBIS has great research behind it to say it works. So we're not asking anyone out there to do experiments. We're not asking them to see if these things work. We're asking them to make it work for their site. And way too many sites have abandoned these evidence-based practices, and they tried them briefly and walked away. And that has contributed to staff de-investment. Staff now have a hard time getting excited about any new thing and all the initiatives, all the things, and it's too much to change it up every year for them. So in many ways, we're asking sites to go back to the basics, right? Character education is something that schools were sort of trying a long time ago, but many walked away from it. Same thing with positive behavior supports and all this other work. So we want folks to leave here feeling optimistic. We know that optimism has a huge impact on implementation. We want you to feel optimistic that these things do work when you stick to it. And I personally have seen this in the district. It's amazing to watch them year after year after year in all of their schools. They have a junior high school who's doing amazing work. They have their elementary middle schools doing amazing work. And so it's really exciting to see that when you stick to it, and you've chosen something that works. We have Rebecca here, who's an amazing school counselor. She's helped to launch and maintain tier 2 interventions and practices. Their psychologists implement tier 3 practices. They connect this to their SST process. So we don't want all these things to feel separate and disconnected. They should all be part of the same one multi-tiered system of support. So much overlap between all these different bodies of work. It's not so much about what you call them, it's more about how you install them. And so to Jasmine's point also, it's so exciting for me to hear TK successes. Students in transitional kindergarten having success with check and check out, with skills groups. I mean, it's just amazing how when you tier it and you put the right practices in the right place, you use data to progress monitor, and you stick to it, we can get amazing outcomes in all communities.
Yeah.
Tim, I would just add Sorry, Sandy, just one quick thing on that. I think the consistency over time is so important, and that's what we've seen in school after school. And we really design intentionally around that. And I just shared something from our curriculum manager, Mel Killingbeck. But really, we're always asking ourselves, how do we inspire teachers to want to teach the 24 character strengths? And so that is what the lessons are designed to do. So they're very easy for the teachers to teach in terms of being low prep, but also engaging for students. We really work hard to make sure that the lessons are engaging for students so that the teachers want to keep coming back to them. Because if they're not engaging for the students, if, Laura, like you were talking about, um, if it's not engaging for students, teachers don't want to do it. So that's really a key focus of our curriculum manager and our team is to make sure that they're engaging for students and easy for teachers to use.
Just
Yeah,
to
I just
add on to
I'm
that.
sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No, I just wanted
Go
to
ahead,
give an
Sandy.
example. We're talking a lot about kindergarten through fifth, sixth grade. I worked as a K-12 well-being coordinator in a school district several years ago. I introduced the character strengths to junior high students who were very receptive of it, absolutely loved the whole idea of the character strengths. And I have to tell you that a couple weeks later, I had 3 girls in my office who all struggle with anxiety. And we had a conversation around learning about the character strengths. And they were just blown away. They said, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea I had that in me." So can you imagine being able to empower your students with just learning that they have these strengths within them to help them? And part of my workshop that I had done with them was showing them how they can take their strengths. They did do the survey, how they can take their strengths and apply it to whatever struggle it is that they're going through, as well as apply it to wanting to reach their goals. Unfortunately, I was not able to get the Positivity Project into that district, which I had tried. But I hit roadblocks. But I did witness an elementary school. I was able to visit an elementary school where they had the Positivity Project, and I was blown away watching these kids show off their character strengths. It was just beautiful. So to me, I think whatever time, energy, money that you invest into the Positivity Project, you're going to see a return on your investment.
Well, and one of the things, and I see that Anita wants to chime in as well. The thing that we often hear, and I was just having a conversation with IPEN has hired a new CEO, the International Positive Education Network has hired a new CEO, and what she says is one of her central mandates is helping bridge the gap between the concepts of, okay, this is what positive education is, and the actual implementation.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the conversation here has been how the Positivity Project in particular is helping do that, right? And very often, I think we get this stumbling block of, okay, well, what is positive education in particular, if you're looking at it through that lens, but how do we measure the things that we value? And there can be that roadblock that occurs. But I heard through Fruitvale's, experience about how attendance is going up, disciplinary issues are going down. I mean, and very often those are the metrics that determine whether you're a good school or not. So when it comes down to having those conversations about embracing these kinds of initiatives, those could be some central talking points. And I'm sure that Jeff and team have those talking points in spades, right? But if you're kind of like trying to wrap your head around how this would land, that's a potential suggestion to make. So, Anita, would you like to chime in with a story?
Yeah, and actually, what you just said was a perfect lead in because you said, I mean, what we know about positive psychology and the research and the practices, it's pretty vast. And so even if you have the training and you know all of those things conceptually, when you're working in the field, then to get those things implemented if you're working in a school, I know firsthand what that's like. I'm currently a retired counselor, still working in the field of introducing positive psychology to practitioners. But when I first was introduced to it, I took a deep dive myself and tried to bring these concepts into the school buildings that I was working in. And I did do some of that, but let me tell you something. Once the schools, and I think I laid the groundwork, because we did get Positivity Project in the elementary school that I was working in. And once we did, it made a big difference for me as a counselor, because once that was in place, and once teachers were gaining an understanding, once leadership had an understanding, then as a counselor, it freed me up to teach more in regard to the practices that impact well-being, the gratitude practices, the kindness practices. And I could talk all day to you about this, but I think the two last things that I want to say is that the students really understood this very quickly. And the summer after I retired, I still wanted to be part of a showcase that Jeff's group did. And I did a workshop on the role of the school counselor. But I don't know if Jeff remembers this, because this was a while ago, and I still miss Jeff because he used to live in the area, and every once in a while we'd have coffee and talk positive psychology. So that was a true luxury, let me just tell you. So, but I only talked in that workshop for maybe 10 minutes. I had 2 students with me, and they carried the rest of it. They did the whole thing. And there were so many teachers on that call that said, I can't believe that the students are doing this. And they were only, I think, in 5th grade at the time. And so the last thing that I will tell you is a couple of those students are on our website. So if you go to Positive Consortium and you look under kindness, one of the students is talking about a different intervention that she was involved in as a middle school student. And she worked with me meeting with groups that were off-site during COVID. And a number of students during COVID pushed into the classroom that were middle school students. I'm still at the elementary level, but these students pushed in and did, I think, 30 to 40 Zoom lessons in the 15 minutes in the morning that you're referencing. So I think what's amazing is over time, the students, they take it away because they understand it. And then when they have the opportunity to be leaders to teach this, and they teach it the way that it needs to be taught. And that to me, I still get excited thinking about that. The ability of students to teach these concepts to other students in a way that really is relevant.
Yeah, Anita, I do remember that, and I miss our coffees too. Eva, it looks like you have something to add on to that.
Yeah, that leads in so much more that I think about is we have a club on campus called P2 Club that our counselor Rebecca Reyes runs with our RBT and the school psychologist. And exactly what Anita said, the students take the lead. They're leaders on campus. You should see them walking around. They go down to our special education preschool. They are walking them around campus. They teach other students the expectations, but they are the P2 leaders. They were part of our showcase that we held. But they're the ones that talk about it the most. And it's great. They come up with amazing ideas during student council. How are we going to push it into our P2 Spirit Week? All of those things. They're really guiding the rest of our students. It's showing them leadership is one of those character strengths. And it shows them anybody can be a leader. And we're kind of pulling those different strengths from students, showing them how to take initiative. Each grade level also does community service projects. So they embed the character strengths within the community. We're bringing the community to our campus. We're doing different things for the community. One of our biggest ones is we partner with Kern County honor flight. And so what we do is we raise funds for that really during the week of bravery. So showing how students can be brave. We have an amazing Veterans Day program that we run, but we give a donation to the honor flight. So we've been able to send two veterans on the past two honor flights to Washington, D.C. But our students get so excited when we connect it to the community. Mm-hmm. They see the veterans there and they're like, I helped to get them there. I helped to do that. Yeah. So it builds that leadership and that capacity within our students. And that's what I really feel is one of the most benefits through positive psychology and Positivity Project is building that for our students and that capacity within themselves.
Yeah, thanks, Eva. And I just shared the story that you wrote about that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, Evan. Hi, Evan. Welcome.
Rick, you have something to chime in with?
Oh, I'm sorry, Rick.
Rick Evans. You got the last name right. You got the last name right.
I was half right.
It's you, darling.
No, I
it's
just
you.
wanted to just commend the PosEd Consortium just for bringing this together. All the, you know, the work that you're doing. I was a principal for a long time, and we embedded positive psychology into our school, and it ended up, you know, just everything that we did was working with the character strengths, you know, intentionally infusing positive emotions, just every aspect of it. And it ended up, you know, moving our school from being around 50% passing to being a national blue ribbon recognition, being recognized by the national government. It just transformed it. And I think it's through the type of things that we're talking about today, the consistency, the follow through. And so I certainly wish I want to learn more about all these things, such as the Positivity Project. I've heard about it, but I want to delve deeper into that and just the work that everybody on this call is making. So yeah, this has been inspiring, and I appreciate all the work that people are doing. It's great.
Thank you, Rick.
Turning it to Laura for closing.
Yeah. So if there's anything, Sandy's actually the one who wraps us up, but Kim and Jeff, any closing comments on this amazingly rich conversation as Sandy was ready to take it over?
May I? Okay. Kim, you jumping in? Shall we rock, paper, scissors?
Yes, you go first.
You know, the main thing, and this is a question that we've long seen with positive psychology and folks that we talk to, and this is the beauty of it being 2026. And we get to see everybody here today. And, you know, this week, I got a chance to work with folks in California, Michigan, Texas, Wisconsin. The list continues. What we see is this type of work that we're all discussing and the partnership that we have with schools and everything that's included in positive psychology's 24 character strengths. It's meaningful everywhere. And we see this with folks that are in urban settings, suburban settings, rural settings, large schools, extremely large schools, small schools. The work of relationships and character always has a place. And sometimes it's, in some cases, the complexity of figuring out how to make that fit. That's, again, I'm very fortunate that I get to do that type of work with folks. But I think, again, to impress that point upon everyone, it's meaningful work everywhere. So it's deeply appreciated, everybody's thoughts on this today. And I think it's work that we need more now than ever. And the reality is with the settings that we're seeing have impactful stories, we got to talk a little bit about that today. There's so many great stories out there, and it's really the work of folks that invest their time in character, relationships, positive psychology, and just being open-minded to tackle those practices. It's not always easy work, but the benefits are just incredibly massive. So it's more of a spot of gratitude, but also to remind everyone that there's space for this everywhere. So just thank you, Kimberly. Thanks for letting me jump in there, and appreciated everybody's thoughts today.
I love it. That's exactly. So I just want to note for everyone that there are many ways to do this work. So just as you're going away, it's not like you have to just do one program or another in order to tackle this. So Dominic, thank you for keeping it a little broader there. Positive psychology says that the wellness of the adults matters, the wellness of our students matter. We need to keep an open mind in terms of why people are doing what they're doing and leverage evidence-based practices to do that work. So Thank you all for being here, for your time and energy in it. Please keep an open mind. Please continue to pursue and learn more about positive psychology or positive education and all the ways that you could bring that work into your sites for all students, for some students, and for a few students based on their needs.
Mm. And since you two did such a wonderful job of wrapping that up, thank you so much. I just want to throw in for the last piece, this right here, this session is our fourth Become a Changemaker conversation in our series of 6. So we have 2 more coming up. We wish, as the Become Conversations, we wish to create hope-filled conversations that helps educators, students, leaders, and communities reimagine education through the lens of human flourishing and positive education. And our next conversation coming up will be co-facilitated by our own Roy Layton from the UK and Miss Marge Schiller, who is on the line. She's a delightful lady. You will love her. You'll love Roy too. But they're going to.
I'm on the line actually.
Oh, you're still there. Oh, you're still there, Roy.
I'm at the Harry Potter.
I thought you signed up. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Roy. I didn't see you. I'm sorry.
Nothing later.
So their conversation is me, you, us, the importance of intergenerational connection through the power of story. And again, if you've missed any of our previous conversations, they are all on our website under the Become a Changemaker tab, and you can watch the recording. So we hope that you will be with us on June 18th. It will be 12 to 1 Eastern time. I'll let you figure out your own time zone. And thank you all so much for being here with us. We really, really appreciate you all, everything that you do every day in the classroom, in the school buildings. You are just amazing. And we want to support you, and we want to help you build flourishing schools in the United States and beyond. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Fruitvale, for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Project and everyone else for joining. We so appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.